You are listening to the International Radio Report. Your reactions are much appreciated. Feel free to send them to radioreport@yahoo.com. That is radioreport@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. It is Sunday, August the 27th. My name's Sheldon. I am here with Gilles, and we have our sometimes guest, and he was with us today, Mickey out in Sherwood Park, Alberta. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning.
And we have some information to pass along to you, as usual, of our contact information and where to find our show, and some new information for you this week. First off, our email address, radioreport@yahoo.com. We are live streaming and archived at ckut.ca, the website for CKUT Radio 90.3 here in Montreal. Our Facebook group, International Radio Report, has 936 members. We welcome John in Manchester, New Hampshire, and Jackie. I'm not sure where Jackie is. He didn't let us know where he is out there in the world, but we thank the two of them for joining. You can find us simply by searching International Radio Report on Facebook. Our YouTube channel is available at IRR on YouTube, and we have 865 subscribers there. You can listen to our show at your convenience. Also go back and listen to previous shows that are set up there. And we talked about the problem we have with posting links to some of our stories now on Facebook because of the new regulations here in Canada. So, Gilles, you're doing something with the YouTube videos to get the links to people.
Yeah, we now will be posting every link in the description just below the video. So all the links are going to be there. I started last week. And we also have our X account, which is, of course, Twitter. You can actually join the Twitter account by searching us. It's at IRRCKUT, which is the account we use. Starting this Sunday, the links are going to be posted there also.
Okay, so that's our way to get around the Facebook issues that we've been experiencing. We are able to get some of the stories up on the Facebook page, certain ones that get through the filters on Meta, but we'll get them up on those other two sources as well, on the YouTube channel and the new X account /Twitter. So you'll find us there. IRRCKUT is the handle on the X account.
First news item today, we have longtime Montreal radio personality Ken Connors that will retire in January of 2024. This is via CTV Montreal News. The Weekends with Ken, host on CJAD 800, made the announcement on the air Monday morning while filling in for Andrew Carter. So I've decided to retire. I've been giving it some thought over the last, 2 years. I started thinking about it maybe during the pandemic, he told CJAD's Trudy Mason. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm coming up on 40 years in this business, he added, noting that he plans to stay on until around January 2024. Although he's a born and raised Montrealer, Connors got his first radio job in 1984 at a station in Kirkland Lake, Ontario. He spent some time at music stations in Guelph and Ottawa before returning home in 1989 to work at CHOM 97.7. He would then go on to host shows on Mix 96, 940 News, and Q92 before joining CJAD 800 7 years ago to take over weekends for Dave Fisher. When asked by Trudy Mason how he's feeling about his next chapter, Connors said with a laugh, "I'm scared to death. Everyone tells you, and you've heard this too, when you do retire, you got to find something to keep you busy and focus on. I have something that I'm hoping pans out in the new year that'll keep me busy on a part-time basis." Connors' announcement was met with a flood of messages from loyal listeners through the station's text line. "Oh my gosh, Ken, what a shock. You'll be retiring. I love hearing you on the radio, and you'll be missed by all of us. But you definitely have earned this retirement," one message reads. And another, "I've got through great trials through the past few years. Your soothing voice did so much to help me calm down. I'm sad that after this year, I won't hear it anymore. Thank you so much for your kind and soothing voice. We will miss you. So another well-known personality here in the Montreal radio area that's going away.
Yeah, 40 years in the business and a lot of it here in Montreal on various stations. A very familiar voice. I wonder if he might be doing some voiceover work. A lot of the retired radio personalities get into that, doing commercials or voice tracking on different things and what have you. So anyways, we'll probably hear something from him before his retirement date in January. We have a little update on some things going on out in your neck of the woods, Mickey.
Yes, as we knew a couple of months ago now, or weeks ago anyway, TSN 1260 in Edmonton, along with other radio stations in the Bell network, were pulled off the air. And the sports community and some of the announcers from that station are going to be surfacing once again. Jason Greger, who has a company called Just a Game Productions, along with collaboration with Stingray Radio, who owns about 100 stations in Canada, and an outfit called The Nation Network. They have decided that at 7 a.m. September 5th of this year, Wetaskiwin's radio station W1440 will be rebranded to Sports 1440. And it's Wetaskiwin's about 70 kilometers south of Edmonton. It's a 10,000 watt station, and it's the only Canadian station on 1440. The station will carry live announcers during the daytime and will be syndicated at night with several of the sports networks that are around the country. So, good news for all the sports fans in the Edmonton market.
Yeah, we knew that some people, one of our friends, Richard Lemke, was quite upset at the decision to stop the all sports station. So he was quite happy to hear that there will be a new one coming on the air. So that's great to hear. Next, we have an audio clip that we're going to play for you. It comes from The Conversation and was posted on the SWLing post. While as Canadian wildfires rage, Facebook's news ban reveals the importance of radio. So let's take a listen to this report.
You are listening to an audio version of a story from The Conversation.
Amid the wildfire crisis in the Northwest Territories and the August 16th order to evacuate its capital city, Yellowknife, the outcry over Meta's Canadian news block has reached new heights. The issue has become even more pressing as evacuees faced challenges getting essential updates. I was visiting Paulatuk, a remote part of NWT, almost 900 kilometers northwest of Yellowknife, when the evacuation order was issued. I was aware of the news ban on Facebook, but I was also able to turn to CBC North's radio broadcast for updates. CBC North moved its broadcast base from Yellowknife to Calgary to provide continued coverage throughout the unfolding situation. Based on my recent personal experience in the region, I was reminded that although social media has been vital for disseminating crisis information, AM and FM radio still play an essential role. As well, there is a necessity for a diversity of media sources, especially in moments of crisis. Following the order to evacuate Yellowknife, many expressed their frustration with the news ban and called on Meta, formerly Facebook, to revoke its embargo of news in Canada so evacuees could access and share real-time updates in a rapidly evolving emergency. News organizations reflected on the urgency and published a flurry of articles with headlines like, quote, "Canada demands Meta lift reckless ban on news to allow fires info to be shared," unquote. Meta's Canadian news embargo is the corporation's response to Canada's Online News Act, which passed in June. The federal government legislation may require large social media platforms to enter into revenue-sharing agreements with Canadian news publishers. This new law has been divisive, with some lauding it as vital for preserving quality journalism and others arguing it's a misguided approach, advocating alternative methods to achieve similar goals. Meta's news block is significant because it affects both Facebook and Instagram. Although Meta has claimed, quote, Users don't come to us for news, unquote. There is little doubt that social media is an indispensable tool for many to stay connected on current events and to share information among friends and family, especially during emergencies. Studies have shown that social media is vital for disseminating crucial information to the public during crisis situations. Even with declared states of emergency in both the Northwest Territories and British Columbia, Meta has made no changes to its policy. News and critical updates are still accessible by going directly to news publishers' websites. For example, the Cabin Radio website, based in the Northwest Territories, remains a dependable and frequently updated information source for citizens, even though it is blocked on Facebook and Instagram. In more extreme scenarios, such as when fires disrupt critical infrastructure, including telecommunications, Internet accessibility is compromised in many communities, except perhaps for those with satellite-based services. This underscores the fragility of Internet-dependent communications during emergencies. Relying exclusively on social media or the Internet exposes us to a kind of single point of failure in our emergency communications system. In fact, reading about the Meta news block may lead people to mistakenly assume that social media is the only source of information on the current wildfire situation in NWT and Kelowna. It's not. Broadcast radio in delivering reliable and trustworthy information to citizens. Broadcast radio has persevered, ensuring critical updates reach citizens. During emergencies especially, radio is a dependable and easily accessible source of timely information, particularly when internet and phone networks falter and when people are on the move, traveling between urban centers where there may be no internet service. It's not a matter of choosing between one or the other, but rather ensuring we don't underestimate the lasting relevance of free-to-air radio as a form of complementary redundancy. The two systems can work hand in hand. The internet and social media may be somewhat less reliable during a crisis, but can nonetheless be exceptionally effective at sharing a rich variety of media content, including maps and interactive exchanges of information. This includes user-generated updates when there are no reporters or local media on the scene. AM radio, in particular, continues to play an important role for farmers and others in remote areas for market and weather reports, as well as emergency updates. Recent decisions by several automobile manufacturers to phase out AM radio from cars has some lawmakers in the United States concerned. We've come to rely on social media as a vital source of information during emergency events. But Meta's continued ban on news in Canada during the wildfire events in the Northwest Territories and British Columbia serves as a reminder of the enduring value of free-to-air broadcast radio, even in the digital age.
You know, it raises a lot of interesting points about the fact that, there's a lot of people that actually get some of the news via Facebook, and now that it's not there anymore. Where do you get that news? You've got to search for it a little more.
Yeah, when Yellowknife, for example, I was tuning around online trying to find some radio stations. There aren't that many in Yellowknife to begin with. And most of them were just playing music. There wasn't any news being put out other than the CBC outlet, which was set up, I believe they were operating out of Calgary, if I remember correctly, and feeding the information through on the Yellowknife station. We'll see what happens with this if they do reverse their decision for a little while at least. But so far, as all of us here being affected by this ban of news information on Facebook. Our next story is something that just came out as we're recording here in today's Montreal Gazette, the Friday edition of Montreal Gazette. The Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission has put a 2-year hold on radio. Now, just what does that mean? Well, the federal broadcast regulator won't deal with any new radio applications or complaints for the next 2 years, a move that has taken radio broadcasters by surprise. Many radio stations are facing really urgent challenges, said Kevin Desjardins, president of the Canadian Association of Broadcasters. At this point, they've basically been told that, no, you can't raise any issues until we're done with this process of implementing the Online Streaming Act. It creates some concerns for the members. Barry Rook, Executive Director of the National Campus and Community Radio Association, said several of the association's members are already well into the process where this is going to cost them a lot of money. There are about half a dozen new stations aiming to apply with the CRTC who will now find it very difficult to be sustainable, he said. The CRTC, which received hundreds of radio filings each year, said in a notice it foresees significant delays in examining them during the modernization of its regulations under the Online Streaming Act. It will still process applications involving changes of ownership. The regulator said it has decided to defer dealing with any new radio applications or complaints during the implementation of its regulatory plan for modernizing the Canadian broadcasting system for a period of approximately 2 years. The CRTC has been tasked with implementing the Online Streaming Act, which requires streamers like Netflix to contribute to the Canadian content system. If applicants can demonstrate exceptional circumstances, the CRTC will deal with them as time and resources permit. Rook said that over the past year, close to a dozen community groups looking to start radio stations have reached out to his association. These are great examples of communities that are simply not serviced by commercial radio stations or the CBC, he said. A 2-year delay will in many cases cause challenges for funding opportunities, such as funding or seeking local advertising, he said. They're not just going to have the capacity to do that without having that license in place. Rook said he would like to see the CRTC put in some sort of fast tracking or temporary license for community stations, which don't normally compete with commercial radio broadcasters. I find this personally completely unacceptable. Let's say you're working somewhere and you have 2 functions on your job and you don't feel like doing one of them for 2 years. So you just sort of kick it to the side and say, I'm not going to do that for right now. I'm going to focus on this instead. This is their job. I don't know how they're going to let them do this.
It doesn't work like that. I don't understand how these people can do that. And imagine even the complaints and stuff like that. What, you're going to complain against a station and, well, for 2 years you could do whatever you want on the air. You're not going to be in any trouble.
It's going to be like the Wild West.
Yeah.
I've seen people here in Montreal that applied for radio stations, and I saw the work and the money that they had to put out up front before they even went to the CRTC with their application. They had to get all these studies done and business plans and finances in place, loans in place, whatever, before they could even approach the CRTC. So a lot of these people have already done that probably, and now they're being told, well, 2 years before we get to you. It just doesn't seem right, and I just don't understand how the government is letting them just decide, sorry, we got other stuff we got to do instead. Hire some more people. There's lots of people looking for work. Let's throw some people in there and let them handle the regular stuff, and have a bunch of people go do this other part that they're seeming is more important than anything else. So
it'd be the rise of pirate radio in Canada.
You never know. You never know. We didn't condone it, but you never know what might happen.
Well, if one knew these things.
That's right.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, the sun was, fairly active as we are in the higher part of the solar cycle. There were a few solar flares here and there, but for the most part, conditions were quite good this week. We had several times when I turned on the radio, the high frequencies were good. I had quite a few interesting contacts on 10 meters, including with Angola. So shows that the high frequencies are there and working. Sunspot AR3415 poses threat for some M-class solar flares, so that could disturb at times this week. Sunspot number is 86, the solar flux 144, and there's really no significant equatorial coronal holes. So, in general, in between maybe a possible flaring of the sunspots, quiet conditions pretty much, and good conditions. But you know what? There's only one way that you can actually witness all of this, and it's to turn on the radio and listen.
I'm Thomas Witherspoon of Asheville, North Carolina, and you're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of news about radio on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
So in our next story, we have a couple of stories actually about the Hawaii fires. So the FCC actions due to the fires in Hawaii. This is via Bill Fram, Medium Wave DX National Radio Club Facebook group. On August 16th, the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau granted a verbal SDA for the County of Maui to operate on frequencies 11.345 megahertz, high Regency Maui, and 10.855 kilohertz in support of emergency services for wildfires in Maui. And on August 18th, the Wireline Competition Bureau issued a verbal temporary waiver to the state of Hawaii authorizing the use of AM frequencies 1620, 1650, 1670, and 1700 kilohertz at any of the locations that are listed below, which is the Mahalea MPD checkpoint, the Camp Maluia, Lahaina Police Station, and Napili Fire Station. And so it's interesting that they added shortwave frequencies in here for communications. And of course, that means that a lot of those frequencies will probably be used for emergency information in there.
We have a somewhat related story from Radioworld. Hawaii puts AM radio to work on Maui. The emergency officials in Hawaii will use AM broadcast equipment to help communicate with the public during the ongoing wildfire recovery efforts in Maui. The State of Hawaii Emergency Management Agency has purchased 4 radiostat portable emergency advisory stations from information station specialists in Michigan, which also makes specialized systems for applications such as travelers information stations and highway advisory radio. The Wireline Competition Bureau of the Federal Communications Commission last week granted the state of emergency authorization to use the stations immediately, as Jill just said in the story, at local checkpoints, police, and fire stations, using 1620, 1650, 1670, and 1700 kilohertz. The first of the 4 10-watt systems has shipped, according to ISS. These community coverage radio stations are designed to inform residents and workers in Lahaina and at key checkpoints about where to find help and supplies, and to update them on changing regulations that impact daily life, including curfews and safety requirements. Each station's electronics are housed in portable cases. A fold-out antenna system allows a station to be set up in 10 minutes by one person. Messages typically are stored on a digital message player, but the systems include an audio mixer for live messaging or to add other sources. The signal is typically announced to the public by portable signage. Motorists can typically pick up broadcasts over 25 to 75 square miles. If AC power is not available, the system scan operates from generator or battery pack. Typical coverage radius over average soil is about 3 to 5 miles, with conventional whip-type AM antennas, according to Bill Baker of ISS. But for this application, he said the company is providing a taller, higher efficiency antenna to counter the rather poor volcanic ground conductivity on Maui, so that authorities can get the best range for the 10 watts. When used in coastal placements where most of the population is located, they will also get help from the shoreline's salt water to conduit the signal parallel. In the middle of the island, between two end volcanoes, is lots of relatively level farmland that may have higher conductivity due to the agricultural activities there. It's really interesting to see that they're using the much maligned AM band, where so many sources are talking about it's not being used anymore or shouldn't be used anymore. The electric car manufacturers not wanting to put the AM radios. Well, here's a use showing you that these stations can still be of use, particularly in emergency services like this.
The story we had earlier about the sports station in Edmonton, Jason Greger and his production company, they believe in AM radio. That was one thing that was brought up in an interview with him.
So we have a little special transmission that will be from Sweden, Veteran Sound Day 2023 transmission on 1179 kilohertz. That's on medium wave. This comes, I saw the article on Radio Magazine, which is a French language radio magazine, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I checked a few other sources to make sure that it was correct. So the Hörby Radio Listeners Association will, in connection with Veteran Sound Day 2023, broadcast on medium wave 1179 kilohertz. The transmitter will be running between the August 27th, today, and the 9th of September 2023. The call sign will be SBH Hörby Radioförening. The call sign is the same as previously used by the broadcast radio station in Hörby. So there is going to be a possibility to send reception reports. We'll be posting the link to the email and all of that. It's kind of interesting to see a reactivation of a Swedish medium wave frequency.
Yeah, we heard 1179 back in the day when Radio Sweden was using it, and just before they shut down Radio Sweden, we picked it up here at the Momen DX site.
Hörby was actually one of their main transmitter sites, I think, too.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so good to see that that's coming back on. So that's going to be starting today.
Yep.
If you're in a location where you can hear transatlantic medium wave signals here in North America, you can give that one a shot on 1179. If you're not, well, use the SDRs online if you want to take a listen to the station. I'm not sure what they're going to be transmitting exactly, but be interesting to tune it in. And we'll put up a link to the email address where you can send a reception report if you hear them.
And we have upcoming ham radio contests.
Coming up next weekend, we have first off the All Asian DX contest. It's a phone contest, 0100 September 2nd to 2359 UTC or Zulu September 4th. That's organized by the Japan Amateur Radio League, 160 through 10 meters, no work bands, and it is a single sideband phone contest.
There's the Colorado QSO Party, 1300 Zulu September 2nd to 04 Zulu September 3rd, organized by Pikes Peak Radio Amateur Association. There's the HF 160 through 10 meters, excluding the work bands, all VHF and UHF bands, including 6 meters. Specifically, all amateur bands are included except the work bands. This includes all bands above VHF and UHF. No repeater or satellite QSOs, and the modes are phone, SSB, CW, digital like RTTY, PSK31, and so on.
We have the Straight Key Party organized by the German Telegraphy Activity Group, 1300 to 1600 Zulu September the 2nd. It's on 40 meters only, and it is CW.
There's the CW Ops, CW Open, 20 hours Zulu to 2359 Zulu September 2nd by the CW Operators or Ops Group. Band 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters, and it is Morse code only, CW.
And we have the Penn Ohio DX Society's J. Hudak Memorial 80-meter sprint, 2000 Zulu September 2nd to 2000 Zulu September 3rd. It is dedicated to the memory of J. Hudak, Kilo Alpha 3 X-ray. It is on 80 meters, and the mode is PSK 31 only.
And we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in. We will put the links up, as Gilles said. They will be part in the description of the YouTube version of our show, which you can check out on our YouTube channel, International Radio Report. And we will be putting links up on our new X account, the former Twitter. Look for IRRCKUT on X. So thanks, Mickey, for joining us again today. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. Enjoy the last weekend of August 2023. I can't believe it. Summer should get a speeding ticket.
Very true. So tune us in again next week. We thank you for tuning in today. You've been listening to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.